recording limit for the lab was set at
I'm just starting a recording real quick so that people that couldn't attend today can watch after the fact.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Thanks. Yeah, so the original detection limit that was able to be reported from the lab was set at 0.5 micrograms per liter. And kind of realized after the first year of monitoring that it was probably a bit too high, as we only had about 8 results, but actually 3 of those from Lake Parker over that 0.5 limit. And then there was a few other lakes that had some results over that as well, but the vast majority were under that limit. But the lab was able to provide me information that there was about like 65 or so other detections that were above the method detection limit, but not the recording limit, so they couldn't actually report the results. So with that information, the lab was able to lower the detection limit to 0.1 micrograms per liter in 2024 and now 2025. We've gotten a lot more results. 2024, we had somewhere around upper 60s, close to 70 results over the detection limit. Lake Parker was one of those lakes again. And then most recently in 2025, I've just gotten, I think, all the data back from the lab at this point. And we had actually over 100 results this year, and partially because we probably had a few more lakes monitoring, also doing some deep water monitoring. But also it's interesting to compare potentially from the past 2 flood years to this year, which was more of a drought year. So I'm just kind of looking at all that data now, putting together a presentation for upcoming conferences. So that's something I can provide later on. I'll be posting it to the Lake Monitoring Program webpage as well. But yes, the 2025 for Lake Parker, also we had repeated results above detection, about 4, I think, from this year. And the total number of sampling days is 6 per year. So this was like 4 days out of 6 this past year, which was quite a lot. Lake Salem was another lake that was in the area that had similar amount of results over the past couple of years. And there's a few other lakes that had quite a few in more of the Cowles Woodbury area and kind of spread around. So there's about, I think, 30 to like 35 lakes or so, or maybe 33 lakes, I think, that had repeated results over the last 2 years. So those are the ones we're kind of trying to prioritize from the Lake and Ponds program, and then reaching out to NRCDs in this case, which was a really good partnership and a great idea. Had to try to use that monitoring data to prioritize funding, in this case for septic inspections and pumping and potential for upgrades, and then also these lake-wise wastewater workshops that Allison Marchione puts on. It's kind of another type of outreach we're probably going to use with this data. So yeah, Lake Parker kind of really jumped to the top of the list. The other thing is that this is over 2 different volunteers that kind of switched over the past year, so it's even more confident in the data, the results that we're getting. So yeah, I think this is a really good idea to kind of utilize that data and hopefully motivate people to try to do maintenance where possible.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Could you talk a little bit about the significance of caffeine in a lake and why we're concerned about high detection rates in Lake Parker?
Sure. Yeah, I guess I should have started with that. I kind of jumped ahead of myself just because I've been working on this for a little while now. Yeah, so the whole idea is that it's been used already in monitoring programs as an indicator of wastewater, because that's really the only source that it can come from, human wastewater, because we consume so much caffeine in our diets now, just globally, really, with a lot of foods and beverages and medicines and things like that. So it's turning up in freshwater systems as well as, I think, marine systems as well. But there's definitely been some studies out there showing different ranges of results. And the idea to use it in Vermont lakes is because most, if not all, of our lakes, there's a few reservoirs, and then Lake Champlain that they are the exceptions, but we're mainly just have septic systems around the lakes, and that there's been a big question over the years of what is the contribution from septic systems into lake pollution, whether it's phosphorus, nutrients, nitrogen, but also other chemicals of emerging concern, pharmaceuticals, and now things like PFAS. And then caffeine itself can be a contaminant at high enough levels. It can affect aquatic biota, but we're using it in this case really as more of an indicator, almost like a tracer basically of wastewater, because the main source would be from septic systems. It could be from people's coffee grounds too in their gardens, or a few other sources, but obviously the main one would be from septic systems. And most of the results that we're seeing are from lakes that have quite a lot of development, older camps around the lakes. And, most of the septic systems that were built in those days would not be permitted now. They're too close to the lakes. They're, very simple systems, sometimes just tanks or holes in the ground in some cases that are in porous soils. So I was not that surprised that we're actually seeing results. It's kind of one of those things where it's exciting to do it as sort of a research kind of pilot project, because I don't think it's really been done on a statewide basis like this before, and using a volunteer monitoring program, and then being able to just quickly start to do outreach and actions with it. But it kind of makes sense. It's we do have a lot of older camps that are heavily developed lakes on the lake shores in Vermont. It's one of our biggest stressors. So this is kind of one of those things that's been hard to get at without any real regulations in the state. And maybe that's something in the future we could look at trying to pursue as well. If there's enough public interest to have some kind of more regulations when there's a sale of a house or a property, to have an inspection, something like that. But so, yeah, that was the basis behind kind of pursuing this monitoring and outreach.
Yeah. I just want to echo that, I think it's really exciting that we have this new data, that we're able to react to it, even though, it's somewhat preliminary. And it'll be really interesting to see if this pilot program is successful, if it leads to updating even a handful of septic systems here on Lake Parker, whether or not that moves the needle in any kind of measurable way. I mean, it wouldn't be definitive, but it would be a piece of information to move forward with that could be interesting.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so thank you again, Mark, for attending and giving us your background on that. It's really useful, and your expertise is definitely valuable in this. So I appreciate you coming on and doing that for us. I think that Brenda may have a question for you. Maybe if there are any questions directly for Mark, he can take those now.
Yeah, be happy to.
I just wondered, when were the samples taken? Was
Yeah,
it
so it's
summer
recreation season. So that's why, I wanted to do it as part of the lane monitoring program, which runs from June through August. So it's we ask for 2 samples per month, about 2 weeks apart. I also do additional sampling sometimes in May. Usually starting in May and then kind of going into October at a few additional lakes. So I can occasionally have some results from that part of the year as well.
Thank you.
Hey, Christine.
Our next question's in the chat, which is from Virginia and John. They're wondering where on Lake Parker the samples are taken, and we can hear from Christy next.
Yeah, so again, because it's part of the lake monitoring program, it's collected with the samples that are also collected for total phosphorus and chlorophyll and Secchi disc clarity, and that's typically in the center of the lake, kind of deepest point, which for Lake Parker, that really is basically the center of the lake. And that's been done since the beginning of the program, so that way we can kind of compare data over time. And the idea behind that too is that it incorporates kind of the overall water quality of the lake. Is going to kind of be represented by that middle data point. I've been asked before about potentially sampling in other areas where there might be like a high concentration of camps or something like that. And that might be something we could look into doing in the future for like targeted additional monitoring, if we have capacity to do that and funds as well. But at the moment, yeah, it's just kind of the central station ones. Is there another question out there?
Yeah, Christy, did you have one?
Yeah, I was having trouble unmuting. My question was very similar, Will, and thank you very much for being here, Mark. You always give us the best data and the most information, and it's really Very informative. So my question was regarding how you sample in the depth of the lake versus shoreline areas that perhaps somebody may know has a sunken cedar box or a old-fashioned septic system, and why you do the deep hole testing, and you answered that already. So I was just reverberating that.
Okay. Yeah, and again, that's something we might look into in the future. I mean, the other issue is that it's the way septic systems work in general is, it's a diffuse kind of source. So it'd be hard to like really necessarily pinpoint any one system or even necessarily a certain area. And really just is kind of getting the baseline data. And it's amazing that we're seeing it in some of these larger lakes as well. And we are doing both surface sampling as well as deep water sampling in quite a few lakes now. I've been about 40 lakes, a little over that. So getting some representative data there as well.
And what would you do if a septic system on a particular property or area of the lake was known to be or thought to be leaking, and there was evidence of some types of wastewater entering the lake? What would you do at that point?
Well, we do have, there are sort of regulations or rules for failing septic systems. So if there was an actual failing system, which would be like ponding, you would smell it or see some sort of discharge, and that can be actually kind of called in or supported. There's funding out there too. There was a round of funding kind of recently, I guess, to kind of help with at least lower income households with potentially failing systems. But you can reach out to our wastewater program and they can try to find assistance at the state. So they're not really here to try to punish you. They just kind of want to be aware and help out where possible. Maybe Will has some additional ideas for addressing those issues.
Sure. Yeah, I think that I have a somewhat similar perspective, but I would say that one distinction between DEC and OCNRCD is that we are non-regulatory here at the district. So this program will be as well. It'll be entirely voluntary for people that sign up. And if we were to identify a failing septic through this program, we could encourage the landowner to use some of those resources that Mark had just mentioned, try and get them in touch with state representatives that could help them navigate those programs. But we wouldn't report anyone or force anyone to follow any of those. So it is voluntary at the end of the day, but I would encourage, I guess, concerned neighbors to have those conversations. If you see any of those signs of a failing septic, start with a personal plea or an approach in an attempt to educate or understand. And then if you feel like that's not a viable option for whatever reason, there is the anonymous reporting tool that Mark mentioned that you can submit to the state, and hopefully someone from their team will follow up.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It was quite clear.
Great. Well, do we have any other questions at this point? Doesn't look like it. Okay, well, I will get into some of the details and the nitty-gritty of this application and program. It's pretty straightforward. We tried to keep it as simple as possible. We do have a page on our website that is open and dedicated to this program. I will put that link in the chat in case any of you have not yet seen it. You're welcome to use that and to send it to anyone else that you think may be interested. On it, you can find just a brief overview of it, as well as the application itself in PDF format. We're encouraging applicants to download it and then either fill it out electronically or by hand. You can snap a picture of it or scan it and then send it to me by email. We have a hand raised by Linda. Do you want to go ahead, Linda? You're muted. Okay, well, we still can't hear you, Linda. You are still muted. Oh, you're off mute.
Okay, very good.
Great.
Sorry about that. I do have a question about what actually the inspection entails. What could it detect, and what are the implications of I guess best case scenario, worst case scenario for a problem?
Yeah, so we've been in touch with Poplin's Septic, which is, I think, our most local septic company. And I always forget if they're actually in Glover or Barton, their main office,
Glover.
but they're right on Route 16. Is it Barton? But yeah, so that's who we're working with, and we've gotten quotes directly for them for, what these services would cost, and then also exactly how they would be delivered. So when I asked about septic system inspections, they offer two types. They do a visual inspection or a camera inspection. Visual inspection is basically just they have their technician on the ground and they see what they can see by eyeballing it, both the leach field and the access point and anything in that vicinity. The camera inspection, they actually will send a little camera down on a snake into the system. They'll look around in the interior of the tank and the pipes that might lead to the leach field. And they will look to see if everything appears to be functioning as it should, or if there are any concerns in terms of damage by cracking, leaking, maybe, roots from nearby trees have intertangled with the system and caused complications. And they'll write up an electronic report that will go both to the landowner and to myself at OCNRCD, although it will be confidential and I will not share it with anyone. It'll just be for our records for tracking this program. From the best case to worst case scenarios, I suppose they could determine best case that there's nothing wrong, it looks ship shape, and that you're good to go with continued regular pumping at whatever interval. In terms of worst case, there may be some concerns that would not require any action on the landowner's part, but would maybe be ideal if the landowner were to follow up with significant and potentially expensive repairs to their system if it's really incredibly damaged or outdated or just non-functional. At which point I would continue to work with the landowner and try to make it clear what their options are and what resources might be available to them to help them afford any kind of replacements or repairs. As Mark kind of alluded to earlier, a lot of those options are income limited. So for a household with higher income, there would be few options for cost sharing, whether that's loans or grants.
So I know some of the programs available, I believe from the state, are typically for homeowners' primary residence, since most residences around Lake Parker are seasonal. Is there funding for that type of property?
For seasonal properties? Yeah, that's a good question. I did reach out to the state to talk to their staff in charge of their wastewater program, and they provided me with 5 separate resources that seemed to fit this part of the state and these purposes. Of them, we have the ANR on-site loan fund. We have ARPA funds. We have the USDA low-income single-family homeowners fund. Rural Edge also provides money for it. as well as the Rural Community Assistance Project Solutions has loans available there. I haven't read the fine print of each of those resources, so it's possible that some or all of them might, like you say, stipulate that they're only for year round. I suspect several of them that is the case. So I think that there would be more limited options for seasonal homeowners in terms of finding resources to help them pay for significant repairs. But I would work with the homeowner to try and find resources for them to help make that possible. And there's no guarantee that I would or would not be able to do that.
Okay.
Does that answer your question, Linda?
It does, but actually I've got a couple more.
Okay, well, if it's all right with you, can we jump to Brenda real quick and then we prompt back to you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a quick question, I think. Your program is open to any landowner that has waterfront. It doesn't have to be a Vermont residence or anything, correct?
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
just need to make sure. Yep.
Doesn't need to be year round, doesn't matter if it's seasonal, doesn't matter the size of the structure, as long as it is a property that has lake frontage and a septic system on it, as well as we ask that the septic system be 20 years of age or older, because we do think that the older the system, the more likely it is that there are problems to find. So yeah.
Good.
Brenda, back to you.
This question has to do with basically what the inspection. Can it detect whether a leach field is deficient or failing? Or is it really just an inspection of the pieces and parts of the septic tank structure and piping?
Right. So they wouldn't be doing any type of excavation or soil testing, which might be an earlier indication of whether or not the leach field is behaving properly. But they would probably be able to see indicators that are, like Mark said, ponding, if there's any kind of obvious discharge that's visually apparent from on the ground, or if any of the mechanisms on the inside aren't functioning as intended, then they would be able to have a pretty good guess that, you know, there is discharge, even if it's not visible from above the ground.
So Taplins will do the two-part, you know, the scope and the visual inspection?
Right. They'll be on site with their technicians. They'll do a pumping of the tank and they'll do a camera inspection. And then they'll write up a report with anything they find for the landowner.
Okay. And I do have questions with regard to the confidentiality, and let me give you a little background. A couple of years ago, and actually on a few different occasions, we've let people know that they can get a little dye pill that they can flush down their toilets. And it was like you mentioned that, you know, that there was a devil in their backyard. Nobody wanted to do it. And to my knowledge, nobody did it. What is your expectation for, I guess, for people's reception to something that, you know, could open a huge can of worms? I mean, I'd love to be able to talk this program up, but it's difficult when people might be facing a $40,000 bill.
Sure. So I think that this was something that we did discuss when I met with the Lake Parker Association and some of their officers. It's super reasonable concern. It's basically, you know, is this program just giving people an opportunity to see a problem, but then not the resources to fix that problem? And in some ways that is a risk that people would run, but it's also, I think that this program is operating under the assumption that it is better to know that there is a problem than not to know it. Because at that point, if you do determine that there's a problem with your septic system, you have the ability to start making choices and looking into ways to remediate that, whatever your means are. And I think that that's really valuable. And it's also really valuable in terms of educating yourself and other landowners about what resources are available, what are the kind of eligibility requirements, and yeah, and just what's possible after you know that there is a problem. And I think that that's worthwhile.
And I hate to be monopolizing things here, but a couple years ago, in conjunction with Daniels Pond and Shadow Lake, we had what used to be called Septic Social. I can't remember what they dignified it by calling it.
Wastewater workshop now.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. And I'm wondering why a program like this wouldn't be rolled out with, you know, some sort of workshop so that individual owners can, you know, pose their questions specific to, you know, how confidential will the information be? You know, will I have, you know, 6 weeks, 6 months, or 6 years to correct any deficiencies? There's just a, I don't know. I'm just wondering, particularly since it's this time of the year, we're facing the holidays coming up. I literally just today moved out of camp. And I, you know, won't be able to talk to people, you know, the way I would normally, you know, living there. I'm just fearful that people will not know enough about it to feel comfortable doing it, you know, without feeling that Big Brother is somehow watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think there were a few questions kind of nested into each other there. And I'll try to take them one by one if I can, but please do remind me if I don't answer all of them. In terms of the Septic Social / wastewater workshop, I do think that's a valuable tool. That is a state-sponsored event through the DEC. And I think that they function well for informing landowners about how septics function and what their options are, and how they can do better for the sake of water quality and lake health. I am and was aware of that as a program outside of this. I do see these as being two distinct programs. They aren't hand in hand. This isn't sponsored by the state. It's sponsored by the Conservation District. I think that, yes, they both have benefits separate and potentially together. That's not the way that this was rolled out as a pilot program. But I think that if it were to happen again in the future, that's not an unreasonable suggestion that the two might go together. And I know that Mark and I have been in touch with Allison Marchione about that program and the possibilities of using this new monitoring data to target it a little bit more to lakes that are having issues with caffeine detection. And then your other question was regarding confidentiality. I would hope that by having this program piloted by an organization that's inherently non-regulatory, that could help put people to ease. It's not being run by the state of Vermont, and OCNRCD has no reason to, or no requirement to, report any kind of septic failures. People, you know, are rightfully distrustful at times. And yes, I was going to say, in terms of when will people have an opportunity to ask questions, this is the opportunity to ask questions. And any applicant that wants to hear more about confidentiality or any aspect of the application or the program, what they're required to do to be a part of it, is welcome to reach out to me directly at any time after this. after this meeting tonight. And so I'll say, just to jump forward a little bit more, and we can go back to your questions in a second, but it seems relevant. The applications will be open starting 9 a.m. on Thursday to give people a little bit of time after this meeting to get their applications together if they'd like before they submit it. And then starting at 9 a.m., any applications that are filled out and enter my mailbox will be screened in order of when they're received. And then the first 8 applications that are eligible will be picked. And we'll have from 9 a.m. starting this Thursday until January 30th. So through the holidays and into the new year, if we don't receive an outpouring of applications before then. And yeah. Was there another aspect that I forgot to answer, Linda?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thank you for asking those questions. They're all really good ones, and I appreciate them. So we have Brenda raising her hand first, and then we can go over to Chrissy.
Just one thing is that it seems like the real questions are confidentiality, but you've kind of addressed them, but we can be assured that you are not going to share any of our information with anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Yes,
I mean,
you can be. I believe I'm just skimming the application real quick to make sure that I did include language in it that we would be held to that standard. It says, I understand that Orleans doesn't have any regulatory authority and has no requirement to share resulting information with the state of Vermont. So that language could potentially be a little bit even more strong to say that we will not share that information. But I would say if there are concerns from landowners and they don't feel that that information is strong enough, but they would still like to apply, I'm happy to entertain those conversations with people, and we can potentially sign something that's a little bit more forceful and put them more at ease.
And the other question is, and if I'm not mistaken, the landowner is not under any obligation to do anything, correct? For repair, replace. I mean, you would hope that they would do something. You would hope that they take the information that they get and work on something, but they're not obliged, correct? They're not obligated.
Exactly. And so in terms of that, it does say in the application, this is the language: I agree to allow authorized personnel access to my property to perform the requested inspection and pumping services. I understand that any additional services or repairs identified during the inspection will require separate landowner authorization. So,
good. And that's, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for checking on that. So it is our intention that no matter what is discovered, it will not be reported, and there will be no obligation that the landowner take action on it. It'll be entirely voluntary, and the hope is that we can provide a service in helping educate them and help connect them to any resources that do exist. And I do apologize that there aren't more robust services out there for providing funding to septic repairs. I think that this would be a different conversation if there were, but that doesn't start or end with me, unfortunately. Chrissy?
Thank you, Will. I was just wondering if you also offer some follow-up information in the form of educational flyers or some sort of document, resources that would steer people to safer product lists for their camps and doing dishes and what not to possibly use or put down the toilets, because I know there is a large list of emerging contaminants, including serotonin uptake, different kinds of pharmaceuticals, and it would be good, I think, to have that resource available for people.
Yes, I agree, and I appreciate that suggestion. I think that it is our intention that we'll have handouts and a variety of resources available to participants in this program. And beyond just those more directly related to chemical runoff or, wastewater discharge, they'll also have, if they would like, I'm able to visit their property in person and offer them suggestions on best management practices for lakeshore properties in general, looking at stormwater and erosion and habitat and things like that as well. So the hope is that this will be a process that can be educational in a variety of ways for these engaged landowners. Yeah, Wendy.
Sorry, I can't figure out how to raise my hand on this.
That works. The old-fashioned way.
We're trying to figure out the age of our septic system. So do you have any idea of who, I mean, I've reached out to the people we're new to Lake Parker in May. And I know the people before us had it for 11 years, but prior to that, I'm not sure. Is there any resources where we can, through the state of Vermont, try to figure out how old it is?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit of a tricky situation, and there are a variety of ways that you could go about it. I would also just say, if you can't pinpoint exactly where it is, and it's just best guess in terms of age, that's acceptable. We're not requiring, documentation to prove the exact age with an application. And we understand that this is kind of an amorphous thing that's not necessarily well documented. You may reach out to, or may consider reaching out to town offices to see if they have anything on file in terms of installation for the property. I doubt the state would have anything, but Mark might know better than I do.
Yeah, I was just going to say there would be permits going back to some dates. I mean, you could check to see if there's been a permit with it, and you're under no obligation to do anything with yours because you're grandfathered in. So just wanted to try to check.
So Mark, who would Wendy reach out to at the state if she was interested in learning if there were any permits on file?
Yeah, it would still be the on-site wastewater program who would do new permits for new construction.
Yep.
They should have a list of whatever archives they have.
Do you have that link or something you could send to me, Will?
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up right now and put it in the chat for everyone.
I mean, the owner before us said that Bob Richards might know because she thinks he might have been there when it was put in, but I haven't called him yet.
He could be right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Wendy, I will actually take a look too at our paperwork going back
Okay.
to see what we can find.
Okay. Thanks, Brenda.
Another good thing to be thinking about from my experience, when my husband and I purchased our camp at Shadow Lake in 2002, we had a cedar box, which really wasn't a septic system. And we knew that the rules for putting in septic were going to change very quickly. So in October, we put in a system and we took photographs of the system, the whole 9 yards, so that would be available to the next person who would be buying the place. Or if we needed to upgrade or do anything else. Instead of having X-ray vision, we had the photos.
Yeah, that's a good way to do it. So I just put into the chat here, it's a list of contacts with DEC Watershed Division, and then the email that I put in there will get you in touch with their wastewater program for anything concerning wastewater laboratory assistance, and wastewater discharge permits. So if you email that email, they should be able to help you figure it out. All right, thank you, Christy. Let's see. So going back to looking at the application and talking a little bit more about the specifics of it. The quote that we received is that their pumping and camera inspection services would run about $600 total. We're asking landowners to contribute $200 of that, and we would pay the remainder. And we're also saying that we will absorb all reasonable costs associated with the inspection and pumping of the system after that first $200. So if there's some small additional fee, then we would cover that. If there's something extraordinary, then that would be discussed with the landowner to come to an agreement. But basically, once we have the 8 eligible applications, we will reach out to the landowners, ask them if they would like to lock in their enrollment in the program with a $200 check, at which point we'll move forward with them and Taplin's. Taplin's has indicated that there will be some small discount if we're able to batch the visits to the same day or same 2 days so that they save time traveling. And yeah, that covers most of the bases at this point, but I'm happy to take any other questions if there are any.
Hey, Will, I just wanted to jump in real quick. Because I looked up the on-site wastewater program. It's a little confusing because it's not really within Watershed Management, which is our wastewater program. So there's the drinking water and groundwater division that has wastewater system and potable water supply program. And that's for soil-based wastewater systems, which are under like 6,500 gallons per day, which are basically septic systems. So that would be the program to reach out to.
Okay. And is that's also under DEC, just not under the Watershed Management Division?
Exactly, as DEC drinking water and groundwater division.
Yeah.
It's because the wastewater program is more like wastewater treatment plants, whereas this is addressing groundwater specifically.
Got it. Okay.
Gotta look up that link if you want.
Yeah. Okay. I've got that link now. And sorry for sending the last one previously. That is the Drinking Water and Groundwater Protection Division, and their contact information is on that page. A few different staff members that you could look into reaching out to. Yeah, that's that correction mark. Okay, any other thoughts? Has anyone, and it sounds like Wendy that you're thinking about applying for this program. Is anyone else in the call thinking about applying?
Yes, Linda.
Linda, you are? Okay. And Brenda, you're thinking that you might as well? Great. So do any of you have questions as an applicant that you feel there's anything I haven't covered yet? Were you able to access the application okay from the website?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. Great. Well, if there are no other questions now, then I'll just encourage any of you to reach out with questions at any time while you're filling out the application if something comes up or if you're not sure about next steps. I hope to make myself as available as possible to people through this program. So if there's any trial and error, that's totally fine. Don't feel like you need to get it perfectly right on the first go around.
And Will, do you want us, as far as like Lake Parker Association or whatever, to email any more information to our members or lake, the emails we have for everybody on the lake? If there's any, if you want to do a short update of the meeting or anything like that, we can send something out.
Sure.
Or even for the link for the recording.
Right.
So, yep.
Yeah.
Send us anything, let us know.
Right. Okay, I appreciate that, Brenda. I do apologize for not getting back to you sooner after our last meeting.
Yep.
That got away from me a little bit. So.
I know what that's like, so don't worry.
Yeah. So yeah, I will follow up with the recording as well as maybe the link to our web page so that people can And I think we'll put the recording on the webpage is what we'll do. So people can go there, see the application, see the recording. And that'll be good.
Also, Will, I just added an additional link to the chat that goes directly to the wastewater system and potable water supply program, which also has regional offices with a map at the bottom of the webpage, but a bunch of information on there.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Even after working in this job and navigating the DEC website for something like 8 months, it's still kind of a maze to me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's going on like 15 years for me, so I know where most of the things are.
Right.
That's the hardest. To access anything on
Okay.
that site. It's unreal.
Great. Well, in that case, I think that I will adjourn, barring any other further questions. I really appreciate you all taking the time out of your Tuesday evening to come and listen to, septic talk. So I know it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I really appreciate that you're all trying to do what's best for your lake and improve water quality for not just yourselves, but for wildlife and your neighbors. And it's really a great thing. So happy to be part of it. And I'm excited to get this program rolling.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Will.
Thank you all.
Will.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I'd like to see if we could get a grant from 4 million to take care of everybody's septic. That'd be cool.
That's the next program, Brenda. We're
Oh,
gonna
is it?
get $4 million next year.
Yeah, I've been thinking, I said, wouldn't it be nice if we could come up with 4 million to clean our lake? And it
Mhm.
would be to every single, didn't matter about your income, didn't matter, are you residents, non-residents? It doesn't matter. It's our lake. We want to keep it clean. If we could
You
only
know-
come up with some bucks. Yeah.
What might be a better, if you were to stumble across $4 million, what might be an even better use of that is take that 4 million and go lobby at the State House. Because I think that we could really use some legislation passed that has some teeth on regulating septic systems.
Yep.
On lake shores, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. Have a good one.